You walk through the metal hallways of Vault 13, the place you have always thought of as home, heading towards the Overseer's command center to find out why you were called there. Having a strange feeling it was to do with the odd meeting with many of the Vault members yesterday. After all, you are the one to draw the short straw. You see him up high, looking down on everyone in his Overseer's chair. You feel your stomach drop, just knowing it is going to be bad news. You approach him and he says to you,
"You need to go find us another controller chip."
Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Fiction. In today's video, we will be discussing whether or not the Overseer of Vault 13 was right in exiling the hero of Vault 13, the Vault Dweller. But to do this, we first must understand Vault 13 and everything that stems from it. For this, we must first begin with the timeline. We begin in late 2054. This is when, due to a plague scare and also the Euro-Middle Eastern conflict, the government in the United States of America would become concerned about the future and the safety of their people. So they would fund the building of vaults in case of nuclear war or a deadly plague. I am sure you can guess which of these would result in the vaults being necessary. Moving on to March 2069. This is when Vault 13 would finally be complete. This was the last vault to finish construction due to many delays. Jumping forward several years to the 23rd of October 2077. This is the day the bombs would drop. People would rush to Vault 13 to be saved from the effects of this nuclear war. Vault life would be pretty uneventful for the majority of the time the vault was sealed. In 2141, the Vault Dweller would be born. This is the main protagonist of the first game. Now, the Vault Dweller would grow up in the vault up until December 5th, 2161, where they would draw the short straw, being released out into the wasteland to find a water chip to fix the vault's water problems. As with the failure of this brave Vault Dweller, and without the water chip, the vault's water supply would dwindle, leaving them to die of thirst or attempt to survive on the surface. Thankfully, on the 10th of May 2162, the brave Vault Dweller would return with a water chip in hand after surviving the creatures of the waste for the past several months. However, the hero's welcome they would receive would leave much to be desired. There were no banners, party hats, or even any balloons. This is what I call a disappointing party. Instead, the hero was told to leave. They were no longer welcome in the vault, and they must return to the surface. This is the event that would trigger the division of Vault 13. After the Vault Dweller was kicked out, others would leave with them, forming the Return to the Surface faction in support of their unloved hero. With the closing of the vault door behind them, there would be even more anger and frustration in the vault, as those who remained believed the Vault Overseer just doomed their hero and those who left in support of them to a horrid and cruel death out in the wastelands. This led to an uprising in the vault, with the vault's overseer being captured, tried, and ultimately sentenced to death for his crime. The title of overseer was abolished, and the hierarchy of the vault changed. The overseer essentially became a role of a computer. This would prevent further unrest within the vault. Whilst this was occurring, there was also what was going on in the wastelands with those who had left the vault. On May 12th, 2165, the Vault Dweller would take off their vault suit, and would never wear it again after the betrayal from the overseer. After heading north from the vault on July 10th, 2165, the Vault Dweller, along with a small group of others who had left the vault in support, and other tribals and wastelanders that had joined them along the way, stumbled upon the area they would call home. And on the 18th of August 2167, the construction of the village of Arroyo would be completed. This is where the Vault Dweller and the others would peacefully reside for many years. During this peace, the Vault Dweller would settle down, and on the 2nd of October 2188, they would have a daughter. This is who you see as a village elder in Fallout 2. Over the next 20 years, the Vault Dweller would write out manuals and memoirs, until on the 16th of January 2208, they would disappear from Arroyo, with no evidence of what happened to them, only their neatly folded vault suit left on their bed. Many had assumed them dead, and this would lead to much speculation as to what had occurred. Were they taken by the sky spirits like some claimed? Or did they move on from Arroyo, as they felt it was time for them to leave the elders to guide the village to its destiny? This disappearance would lead to one moon's cycle of mourning for the loss of their great leader, which would end on the 2nd of February 2208. With this, the day-to-day life of the village would return to normal. Also on this day, the daughter of the Vault Dweller would begin her training to become the village elder. Through this, she undergoes much physical training and is taught much about weapon skills, science, mathematics, and other knowledge that is necessary necessary for her to become the village elder. On January 31st, 2210, her skills would be put to the test. More specifically, the Mystic Test. Part of this test required several hallucinogenic plants that were from Hakunen's garden. She then completed the Temple of Trials, which during this, her handgun would jam and ultimately break, leaving her weaponless at the very beginning. Instead, she would rely on her charm to make her way through. This would lead to the Temple of Trials test being greatly revised and the broken handgun remaining on her table as a reminder. Because of her passing this trial, the Vault Dweller's daughter, on the 2nd of February 2210, would become the village elder. In this position, she is greatly respected, as she rules wisely and fairly over Arroyo. Moving on to the 23rd of March 2221. This is when the village elder would have a child. This child would grow to become the future chosen one, destined to save the village of Arroyo through their search for the Gek and the defeat of the Enclave. Now we move on to around 20 years later, on the 25th of July 2241. This is where we see the Chosen One taking their Mystics test, and ultimately passing. 2 days later, on the 27th of July 2241, they would leave Arroyo in search for the Gek. Throughout the time of the building and the running of Arroyo, Vault 13 would be peacefully running. The peace and rest throughout the vault would last until the 15th of May 2242, as this is when a signal would be sent to the vault computer telling them that it was time to leave the vault. But who would send this signal? Well, the Enclave, of course. This is where the Vault Dwellers would be gathered for the video tutorial in preparation for entering the Wastelands. The next day, on the 16th of May 2242, the door to Vault 13 is opened, and the members of the vault are met by the not-so-friendly Enclave 30-bird squads that had been waiting to take them to the Enclave base. This did not go as well as they had hoped, with 3 dying for resisting the Enclave's attempt to capture them during their storming of Vault 13. On the next day, the 17th of May 2242, without even letting the blood dry, the Enclave would replace the Vault's residents with talking Deathclaws. This was to ensure that there was no one left behind to alert others about what went on in Vault 13. Thankfully, the Vault Dwellers would be rescued by the Chosen One, which is the main protagonist of Fallout 2, in the autumn of 2242. Now let's move on to the experiment that was housed inside of Vault 13. This vault was built to house an experiment that tested the results of prolonged isolation from the world. This vault was built to house up to 1,000 people. At its capacity, there would be 10 sleeping per room in the 100 designated living quarters. The point of this was as a method of preserving society without the influences of the outside wasteland or nuclear war. This was supposed to provide a clean and unaffected group for the future of civilization, and also to see how much of the old ways would be retained in this vault. Unlike many of the other experiments, like Vault 112 being the vault that kept its members as prisoners of a simulation for over 200 years, Vault 29 being only those under the age of 15 allowed to enter, or even Vault 15 being a multicultural vault. This is one of the few vaults that did not actively disturb the lives of those living inside of it. Since we have discussed the experiment of the vault, we should now move on to some of the members living inside of the vault, and also those who descended from it. So who are some of the important members from this vault? Firstly, of course, there is the Vault's Overseer. He is the leader of Vault 13 prior and during the first game. With his leadership role, he would be the one to run the day-to-day operations of the Vault and also the experiment, which after being alerted to the Vault's water chip deteriorating, would lead to him sending someone out into the Wastelands. However, the hero Vault Dweller would not be the only one sent on this mission. There were previous attempts to recover a water chip, which failed. But who were these people that were also sent on the doomed mission? Well, these unfortunate souls were Talus and Ed. We meet both of these characters in various circumstances, starting with Ed, as he is the first to appear in the first Fallout game. You meet Ed right outside of the door to Vault 13. Well, Ed's very, very decayed body, with the scraps of his Vault 13 suit still on him. As could be guessed from this, Ed was not very successful on his mission to find a new water chip. Nor did he make it very far. He was used as a prop to show that the Vault Dweller was not the first one sent on this mission, leaving this vault and also to highlight, hey, you're not in the Shire anymore, Frodo. Stuff is actually dangerous out here. Moving on to Talus, who we find much later in the game. But did he fare any better than Ed? Define better. Is he alive? Well, yes. Is he human? Not anymore. Well, what happened to Talus is that he firstly volunteered to leave the vault when the problems with the water chip first started happening, being given a shotgun with some shells on his departure from the vault. He wandered the waste for years looking for a hint about the elusive water chip. eventually catching a clue about Necropolis having the ability to purify vast amounts of water for its settlers. Talus would travel there and work with Set in an attempt to get rid of the super mutants plaguing the area. In this battle at the watershed, they managed to kill off most of the super mutants there. However, Talus was captured. Here he would be exposed to FEV by the children of the cathedral's medics under the eye of the lieutenant, in hopes that he would become another super mutant. But this did not occur. Instead, he became a different kind of mutant, one with a ghoulish appearance. Thankfully, the followers of the Apocalypse would step in to prevent his transformation from going any further, rescuing Talus. After being unconscious due to these medical procedures, he would wake up in the Boneyard Library. Eventually, after spending time with the followers of the Apocalypse, Talus would attempt to understand the children of the cathedral, its inner workings, and whatever it could be hiding, which is how you discover him. Now that we know about the history of the Vault, its experiment, and also those who never made it back after attempting to get a water chip, we should discuss whether or not the Overseer was right to exile the Vault Dweller. Yes. However, not in the sense of preserving the experiment. As the members of the Vault had never been exposed to much of the outside wastelands, there is a possibility that the Vault Dweller may bring back something that the others could get sick and die from. But also, of course, if he was to have allowed the Vault Dweller back into Vault 13, it would have ruined the experiment. The Vault Dweller was exposed to radiation, FEV, and of course the various beliefs and ideals of those living on the outside. So he was no longer a member of the isolated group. He could introduce ideas that may have been radical in the Overseer's opinion. He could also introduce new viruses or other potentially dangerous things into the population that he was exposed to in the wastelands. So to keep the experiment running, the Vault Dweller had to go, which with many members of the Vault obviously not being fond of this decision, would also leave the Vault, and they would ultimately lose contact. This also led to the remaining Vault Dwellers viewing this behavior as damning them to death, all because of the Overseer's strong belief in the experiment, which was the isolation of the people in the Vault from the outside world. This is something he would ultimately die for. In the appearance of Ed, the dead Vault Dweller, just outside of the Vault door, it hints that the members of the Vault are ill-equipped for life outside of the Vault and exposure to things outside of the Vault. So with allowing the Vault Dweller back in, not only could it cause illness, but it could also prompt a desire for others to venture outside of the Vault, which is what the Overseer was trying to prevent. He wanted the members to see that the outside was a dangerous and unlivable place, whereas inside the Vault it was safe. So no, he was not wrong in the sense he wanted to protect those he was supposed to be in charge of. However, he possibly could have gone about explaining it better. He tried to keep them safe and alive, but ultimately ended up dying in the end. Let me know in the comments, do you think the Overseer was right? If you enjoyed this video and are curious about the other vaults in Fallout 1 and 2, then you should check out this video. It discusses Vault 15 and who should be the rightful owner of that vault.